What is up, guys? It's Eddie here, bringing you guys the first official deck profile of the channel, and I'm gonna start off with Blue Flare. Blue Flare is a deck that I've been testing since it came out in BT-10, and we got more support in BT-11, which I think really helps the deck out. And we got a lot more tools to use, like the Black Tamer Yuya. So I really wanted to just showcase this deck eventually, because I haven't been able to get to locals to record videos. I will have more locals content on the channel about for this deck, but for now I'm just gonna give you guys a deck profile, my brief thoughts, and my run throughs and stuff. So we're gonna start off with the level 5s, because this is a Digicross deck. We are playing 4 of the Metal Greymon. Card's broken on play. He gains rush, and then if you're digicrossing, everything with equal to three of your opponent's Digimon with equal to or less sources on the field cannot attack or block until the end of the next turn. And he is material safe too. You digicross Metal Grey and Melbird. So yeah, I think card's pretty solid, and it is the heart and soul of the deck. So when you don't find it, you kind of cry a little bit. Speaking of Metal Greymons, we play 2 Metal Greymon plus Cyber Launcher. Honestly, really only here for the effect of his name is treated as Metal Greymon and Cyber Dramon, because he counts as this homie here, which just basically means that you can use it for other plays like Metal Grey X, which we'll talk about in a little bit. His effect to bot deck a level 3 is absolutely useful, because you can bot deck things like quote-unquote floodgates, so like Madoki Betamon, Siyakomon, things of the like. Solarmon really stops this deck, so if you really want to evo into something and get rid of that Solarmon, you can evo on top of level 4 for 4. And this deck always has a lot of memory, so you can bot deck that Solarmon and get rid of it, so it's pretty nice in my opinion. Also, because he's treated as both Metal Greymon and Cyber Launcher, you can digicross himself. You can digicross with himself, and then he'll have the you can bot deck you can end up activating the second effect of bot decking a level 4 lower instead, because he is treated as Cyber Dramon. So it's pretty dope. Next we play the 1 Decker Greymon. Card's still really good for unconditional stun, unconditional if you have Decker Dramon in the source, but we did bump him down a little bit, but his on play and the Digivolving effect to shove something into the source is still really good. It's the same thing with Metal Greymon and Cyber Launcher, but I still like him more, but because we are playing the deck the way that we are, we have to cut him down. And what I do mean by the way that we are is because we are playing 2 Metal Greymon X Antibody. It's Metal Greymon X Antibody is the biggest reason why we upped the Metal Greymon count. Essentially, we now play 6 Metal Greymons, simply because he can evo over Metal Greymon and Metal Greymon Cyber Launcher to get the 3k power. He will always get the sec +1, but this is really good for just attempting to OTK your opponent or close the gap on security, because most of the time if you're able to go into this, especially with something like a Yuya front loading power, you can knock out up to 3 security in a turn, and I'll show you how we do that in a bit. And you can knock out either up to 3 to 5 security in a turn, so it's pretty nice. So yeah, that we do play 2 Metal Greymon X Antibody for that. As you guys are noticing, this is not an Ultimate Cup friendly list. I will actually switch out the list. I will show you what I would switch out the list I will show you what cards I would switch out in the list for an Ultimate Cup friendly version. Or actually, I'll probably just deck profile the Ultimate Cup friendly version, because I do have one of those. Next, we play 2 of our top end, which is our level 6 Z Greymon. I only play 2 because personally I only found space for 2. That could very much change a lot, depending on how depending on if I find space or not. But Z Grey, he evos from Metal Greymon for 2. So again, any of these 6 here will suffice when evoing for 2. And then on evo, if you have a Blue Flare or Crossheart trait in the Digivolution sources, and your opponent has 2 more Digimon, he gains 2 memory. So basically he's a free evo, but he also unsuspends, and the unsuspend is unconditional, which is nice. Basically the unsuspend is really nice because you can just have a level 6 body that unsuspends, and it can swing again if you have if your opponent has too many bodies on the board. Also, his on deletion, he does have save, and he saves himself under a tamer, but also he gets to choose a blue Greymon and a blue Melbird from your trash, and you can shove it under a tamer with general and its traits, so you can basically save the entire line except for the level 5, but that's always available to you at any point technically. Yeah, and then his inheritable, he has blocker. He gives blocker if he has Blue Flare in the traits, and that's really nice because before Blue Flare had this issue of like you would stun you're at 0 security, you would stun your opponent's entire board, you choke them out to 1, but then what would your opponent do? Push out a rookie from raising and kill you with it because you didn't run blockers in the deck. But if you're asking how you're gonna get those into the source, basically you can shove them in with these cards, with the Metal Greymons, Cyber Launchers, and Decker Greymons. So yeah, because on Evo or on play they do shove something into the source, so you can play them from your hand or under a tamer if you put them under Teki Kirihan NA. But yeah, that's it for the level 5s and 6s, so we're gonna move on. Moving on to the boy Greymon. Greymon is one of the heart and souls of the deck, right? Because he is a Digicross requirement for Metal Greymon, so you absolutely need to find him. But not just him, you can find the red Greymon as well, which we do play. But on play, you reveal top 4, you add 2 cards with Blue Flare, and then you shove the rest of the bottom of your deck. And then, or if you have a Kiriha, you can salvage a Metal Greymon from your trash. That salvage, it comes in a lot handier than a lot of people might think, because sometimes your Metal Greymons do end up in trash and then you're just kind of sad. And then his one attacking is if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon, you unsuspend. So a pretty cool thing you can do is if your opponent has 2 Digimon, you have Metal Greymon, you can swing a security, unsuspend, that's 1 security check. You can evo into Greymon and Metal Greymon X antibody. You can swing, that's 2 more security checks, and then you can evo for 3 in the Z Greymon, and then you gain 2 memory back and he unsuspends, and you can swing again, that's the last 2 security checks. Granted, they all have to live security, but it is a doable thing, especially against decks that have small bodies. For example, like Crossheart, if they don't have a cross 7 or a cross 5 in the security, they basically lose all their security in 1 turn, which is pretty nice. But yeah, really love this boy. Moving on to our other counterpart of Metal Greymon, we do play 4 Male Bergermon. Male Bergermon is on play. If you don't have a Kiriha in hand, you can play it, and then if you don't have a Kiriha in hand, you can play it. But if you do have a Kiriha in hand, you can salvage a Metal Greymon from your trash, which is nice. And an on deletion save. And then his once per turn is on swing if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon, you can stun one of the Digimon if you're a Blue Flare trait. So very, very nice, very clean. Next level 4 we do play 4 Decker Dramon. This card's actually stupid underrated because on play you can draw one, and then you draw one for every Digimon in your opponent's field. If your opponent has a random field of like 4 Digimon, you're drawing 5 that turn. I've drawn like upwards to 7 because I've played against Jessmon with this deck, and the entire board was stunned. And you just push out a Gaussmon, you play this thing, you draw 7 cards, and you just draw your outs, right? So it's pretty nice. And then his inheritable is obviously he has save, but his inheritable is if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon and 1k DP. Comes in handy sometimes, especially in that situation where you need the extra 1k DP to live security checks. Next we do play 2 Greymon of the start deck variety for the sec +1, because sometimes I find that if you don't find blue Greymon, red Greymon is actually just fine as well. You just want the Greymon name because you really need to find your Digicross materials for Metal Greymon. Playing them for 5 sucks, but I'd rather play them for 5 with a Greymon under than a Male Bergermon under, because Male Bergermon does stun. But if I'm trying to just nuke my opponent's security, sometimes the play, if I have the memory for it, is just straight up Digicross into this Greymon and then evo into X antibody and swing for 3 checks. And then if it randomly lives and you have 1 extra memory to play with, which is very doable with the version that I built, you can evo for this to 1, you unsuspend, and you swing for another 3 checks. It's a pseudo OTK if you can get it off. And again, yes, it has to live security, obviously. But you know, crazier things have happened. Sometimes security is just pretty bad for your opponents. The next thing, so moving on to the rookies, so that's it for the level 4. Moving on to the rookies, we do play 2 Siakomon. I play 2 Siakomon simply because, well, I respect kind of Black War, and this is basically just for Black War and to an extent Bloomlord, where you can't reduce Digivolution cost. It stops Digisorption. I don't play Madoki Betamon in this deck because I don't think there's a lot of memory gain in this meta to like warrant it, and a lot of the memory gain that we do get in this meta is All Force, which is one of those decks that is just kind of sits there and like bounces your Madoki away anyway, so it'll gain the memory anyways. But yeah, can't reduce Digivolution cost, so it stops Greymon X antibody. It's pretty much the big reason I play it. Honestly, I only play this because there's a couple players on my locals that do run Black War, but totally understandable if it gets cut out for Drake for the 3rd and 4th Dracomon. So this is just basically just because my locals has preference, but has a Black War presence. But Dracomon, this card's pretty good. When you play something with Drummon or Blue Flare in his trait, draw a card in his inheritable. You gain a memory when you play into the Digimon Drummon or Blue Flare. You don't use that inheritable too much unless you manage to shove him under the source with Metal Gray or Decker, but at that point you already have your body on field, so there's kind of no point unless he lives the following turn, and then unless it lives through the following turn, and then you just end up sitting there and hard playing a Metal Greymon for 2. But yeah, not as useful as I would think, but the extra draw does come in handy sometimes, especially when you push him out and then you play a Greymon for 4, and so you can draw 1 and then check top 4, so you dig for 5 instead of 4. And then for the last rookie, the most broken MVP of the deck, Gaussmon. So his effect is simple. On deletion, you play a level 4 from your hand, a level 4 Blue Flare. Most of the time, you're playing your Decker Dramon just to draw cards, or you're playing your Mel Bergemon if you don't have a Kiriha. But most of the time, you will have a Kiriha set up because of the egg that we play. So yeah, and then if you have these 2 on the field and he dies, then you get to draw 1 off that, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, I wouldn't play less than 4 because that card's broken. Moving on to the Tamers, so we do play 4 of the usual Kiriha. You absolutely have to play 4 of this because of Blazing Memory Boost plays it for free, quote unquote. But you want to be able to see it at all times. It sucks that he doesn't do anything else but like let you Digicross, and he doesn't give you any other type of memory, but you do need to be able to Digicross from source, which is kind of important for this deck. Next we play 2 Taiki Kiriha Nene. Yep, this card exists. At the start of your main phase, you can shove a Digimon with Crossheart or Blue Flare in his traits under this Tamer, and then you gain a memory and draw 1, and then he has the same effect as Taiki Kiriha, but he's also a General and a Blue Flare, so he's grabbable off of Blazing Memory Boost. It's grabbable off of Greymon. You can also, because it has General on the trait, you can save everything into the with Z Greymon. It's a very nice card. Very, very good. Very, very good utility card. And it's very nice. Speaking of very nice, this is my one of. I do play 1 Yuya. So absolutely not necessary, but it's pretty funny when you think about it. A lot of your level 5s here are Greymon in name. Decker Greymon, Metal Greymon, Metal Greymon X. So if you're playing against like a option heavy deck like Security Control, it's always nice to have the 1 Yuya, I think, because you can play your Metal Greymon and then Evo into a Decker. You can play your Metal Greymon and then you can stun. You can Evo into a Decker for 2. You can tap the Yuya, give power, and then start blasting away. Or if you're playing against that control, you really want to punish and you really want to not deal with their security, you can do Metal Greymon, Evo into X, and then you can tap this, make it unaffected by options, and swing for 3 checks if you have the Sec +1 Greymon in the source, which happens more often than people would think, actually. I'm going to be honest with you. So yeah, absolutely do love the one of Yuya in this deck. It's also a memory tamer. It doesn't do anything else, but it does make your stuff big and unaffected by options, which is always a plus. And then because the Decker Greymon and the Cyber Launcher can Evo off of level 5s, you can do it again on the following turn as well, provided that you have another one. We only play 3, but that's because I'm trying to make space for stuff, and the space for stuff is this, if not is Metal Greymon. I would totally run like 2 more Decker Greymon or 1 more Decker Greymon just to have more options for that. But yeah, moving on, I do play quite a bit of options, and starting off with the most important option in the deck, it is Blazing Memory Boost. Blazing Memory Boost is very nice. It's a very nice option. This card is just a +3 if it goes off. You can check top 5, you can search, you can add up to 2 blue flares, then you can play a Kiriha. Note, if the only 2 blue flares you reveal is a Kiriha plus something else, then you have to add the Kiriha to hand. But this card's really nice. It's also a blue flare. Again, you can add it off of Greymon. But card's broken when it pops off, and it actually gives you all the advantage in the world. Next, we play 3 Sorai because this card's still really good, I think. Stripping the top 4 of a Black War Grey feels kind of nice, man. Yeah, it feels really nice. Also against Grandis, if they hit this in security, the Grandis on the first check, the Grandis is not swinging again, which is kind of nice. And it's forever stunned, which is cute. Next, for personal things, I play 2 Howling Memory Boost. I just like gaining the extra memory and being able to strip 2 more sources, because sometimes you just need to strip sources on like bigger stacks. That way you're able to stun with Metal Greymon. So I like this a lot. And also the gain 2 memory is also really nice. And then for the last thing, we don't like getting OTK, so we play 2 Kaitis Breath. Yeah, I don't play Ice Wall in this deck. I don't think, like, Ice Wall is a nice card, and if it works for people, it works for people. It's never worked for me, and that's simply because I just don't like I like cards in my hand that do things, and sometimes Ice Wall is the most do nothing card, especially if I am just stunning my opponent's board. 5. It's a Saki one of, it's a good one of. It's limited for a reason, but I don't think it has a place in my version of the build, just because I prefer things like Howling Memory Boost to gain immediate memory and stuff like that, and making room for all the options that I do play. So yeah, I don't like getting OTK'd. And then lastly, for the eggs, we play 4 Wanyamon, 1 Upamon. Golden standard for eggs. You play 4 Wanyamon because it do be the golden standard. I mean, this deck, you heavily relies on your blue tamer, so you want to draw one off, and then Upamon because you're shipping sources most of the time. So some of the time you're shipping sources, and your opponent likes, and people like to hard play stuff in this meta, so this isn't a bad egg either. Wanyamon is broken. Alright, so if you give me a second now, I will switch over to the Ultimate Cup list if people are interested in that. So, be right back. Alright, so we're back with the Ultimate Cup version of the list. I'm just going to go over it real quick because I don't think I'm going to take this deck to Ultimate Cup. The deck that I'm probably taking to Ultimate Cup is All Force, but I'm not going to show that list until I actually play in the Ultimate Cup. But anyways, so the list is, the eggs stay the same for Wanya, 1 Upa. That's pretty standard, I think. Best eggs. Next, for the level 5s, we do play... my card flew. For the level 5s, we do still play 4 Metal Greymon, and then we do play 2 Metal Greymon plus Cyber Launcher, and then we do cut one of the Metal Grey X's for second Decker, so we do up the Decker count. This is specifically because I do end up playing, we are playing 4 Decker Greymon in the list now. We are playing 4 Decker Dramon in the list, so I felt the need to up the Decker Dramon count, the Decker Greymon count, and then we still play the 2 Z Greymon. I think 2 is just enough. The problem with this is that there's no reliable way to get them into sources anymore because the Ultimate Cup restrictions does say that we aren't allowed to play any other color, so we lose access to the Triple Tamer. And granted, while you could still put them from hand into the sources from these, most of the time, if you're evoing into this, you're gonna want to stun something extra. But I think 2 is enough, especially with all the searching that we have, and I think 3 can probably be a little bit bricky. It's more to test, but I could be proven wrong at any time. For the level 4s, we still play 4 Greymon, 4 Melbergermon, and then we up the Decker Dramon count to 4 because we do replace one of the Sec +1 Greymons with the last Decker Dramon, just so we have more targets for Gaussmon, and Decker Dramon's also really good, and it's also the reason why we up the Decker Greymon count. So it's nice. Now for the rookies, we play the 1 Madoki Betamon and 2 Siyako. Honestly, this is very interchangeable, extremely interchangeable in my opinion, because with things like Bloomlord, you could be wanting to play 2 Madoki, 1 Siyako, because this does stop Digisorption, but it doesn't stop literally anything else, any other deck. I think Bloomlord is like the only deck that has cost reduction, unless you're playing against a random version of Yellow Hybrid for whatever reason. But you could also just play 3 Madoki Betamon. I think that these are just all interchangeable ratios, which is completely fine. But you play what you like. I think I'm probably switching to 2 Madoki, 1 Siyako if I were to take this into Ultimate Cup, but you know, that's just me. We still play the 2 Draco because drawing a card is really nice. If you want to cut these for more Madoki, more Siyako, I would not blame you, especially because Bloomlord is a real thing. Next, still the 4 Gaussmon because this card's absolutely busted when it dies in security. When it doesn't die, it feels kind of bad, man. For the Tamers, still the 4 Kiriha, just because Kiriha is Kiriha. We actually need them in the deck. And then we play 3 Sora Joe, because there's no better blue Tamer for this deck. I really absolutely love Sora Joe, and especially with the version with this version of the Ultimate Cup deck that I would take if I was playing it in Ultimate Cup. So yeah, Sora Joe, extremely nice. And you're stripping sources consistently every turn, and your opponent has to now play around you having a Tamer that'll give you up 2 extra memory every turn. Options basically remain the same. Blazing Memory Boost, and then we play 4 Sorai. So the reason we play 4 Sora is because with the advent of like having 3 Sora Joe in the deck, you want to be able to continue to strip more sources as much as possible. And I think that when Bloomlord has a board of a bunch of bodies and you have a Madoki and maybe a Siako on the field, they really can't climb to kill you, so it's kind of nice. We still play the 2 Howling Memory Boost, and then we because I like the extra memory in the Source Strip, and then we still play the 2 Kakaitis Breath because someone's going to make an OTK deck, and it's probably going to be Red Hybrid. And I don't want to. Oh wait, actually, even if it's Red Hybrid, yeah, Kakaitis Breath ain't doing you squat. Someone's gonna make an OTK deck. Someone's gonna get OTK by some random like Alphamon deck for no reason. And I'm not trying to get OTK'd in any format, but I also like to get rid of problem cards. So Kakaitis Breath is nice. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile. Obviously, feel free to tweak however you like. Don't give a damn. This is just my personal take on the list. I still think Ice Wall is pretty freaking bad. And it's not to diss on Ice Wall, it's just never worked for me in this deck, just because board is stunned. I play Ice Wall. Oh yeah, that's a nice Ice Wall. What is my opponent doing when I play an Ice Wall? And they're just doing the same thing that they do regardless when their board is stunned. Evo and pass. Like that's literally that's what it's always been in my experience. I play Ice Wall, my opponent's board is stunned, they just Evo and pass. I don't play Ice Wall, my opponent's board is stunned, they still Evo and pass. So, you know, the result is the same, and I want to make room for other things like Howling Memory Boost because I absolutely like that card. Oh, forgot you're upside down. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know if you guys want to see more deck profiles of other blue decks for BT-11, with the exception of All Force, because All Force Daddy do be here. I do indeed own the humble flex of All Force, but I do indeed own the All Force Humble Flex, but I am probably taking this to Ultimate Cup, so I am not going to be showcasing that deck profile. Not that I don't think majority of people are watching this video, but you know, you never know. All right, catch you guys next time. Bye.